you, sir. I'll apologize. I will be stepping on some of the toes of my predecessor speakers, though I'll be putting forward some new toes to be stepped upon later. I have no financial interest. Initially, when the first IOL was implanted, you had a major post-op surprise, and at that time there was no clear understanding about how to manage and decide upon the IOL to be put. But current, as has been presented earlier, the lens surgeon is now truly a refractive surgeon, and the aim is to combine the lenticular as well as refractive surgery in a single package. So first thing is, how good is good enough? How good should we be? So the UK NHS criteria has set some benchmark standards for refractive outcome after NHS cataract surgery, which is that 55% of your outcomes from your cataract surgical practice should be within 0.5 diopters of your expected or desired outcome. So if you are planning for some degree of overcorrection or undercorrection, then it is included within this 55%. So the aim should be at least 55% should be within 0.5 diopters. Now, we've talked a lot about what are the reasons, what are the components of biometry, and axial length, and that is why we've been discussing axial length frequently and repeatedly, really is involved in 36% of the errors that come about with IOL implantation. The cornea is responsible for 22%, and the effective lens position, which is the basic aim of any biometric formula to calculate the effective lens position and therefore the outcome that it will give, will be responsible for about 42%. We've talked about ultrasound and optical axial length, and as discussed, the ultrasound is the most widely performed, although unfortunately the least accurate, and has significant errors because of indentation. The immersion is more accurate but messy, cumbersome, and requires the patient to be supine. The considerations in axial length by ultrasound is important, as has been discussed, that both eyes is not only prudent but should be customary and made a part of your practice, because comparing the axial length either eye is very important, and if there is a difference, it becomes an indication for repeat. So when would you repeat your measurements? Measured axial length is less than 22 or more than 25 becomes an indication, unless you have pre-existing knowledge that it's a myope or it's an ophthalmic or a small eye. Nevertheless, it's always better to measure it again. Difference between either eye is more than 0.5 millimeters. The axial length value appears to be wrong when compared with refraction, as has been discussed in the previous case. The errors in axial length are the most significant and may amount to almost 2.5 diopters per millimeter in an IOL power. And greater errors are there in shorter eyes, so it's important to be very careful when you're measuring short eyes. The optical method has been discussed. There are two well-known machines, the IOL Master and the LensStar, and as was seen, we have a good following of the IOL Master here. The advantages over the ultrasound being non-contact, sitting position, minimum cooperation, and traditional SRK and Holiday formulas were used, but now the Haig's formula, which involves certain advantages, like it can be adapted to being surgeon specific, IOL specific, allows a newer level of flexibility in calculating the IOL power. All these are the improved outcomes resultant from the changes that are occurring. The IOL Master solves some of our major A-scan issues, including the presence of a posterior staphyloma, including doing axial length measurements in long eyes, short eyes, silicon oil filled eyes, or in the presence of asteroid hylosis. There is almost 1 diopter error in keratometric readings would lead to about 0.9 diopter error in the calculation of IOL power. So again, the cornea measurements have to be very well done. As have been discussed, any kind of procedure that can indent the cornea, like gonioscopy or tonometry, should be avoided. And putting artificial tears before doing this procedure can be useful. In case of a difference in cylinders between your refraction and keratometry, it is better to go for corneal topography if you have the facility. If the keratometric and topographic readings correlate, then the cylinder is due to your lenticular astigmatism, which can be taken care once the lens is removed. Else, repeat your keratometric readings. For inaccuracies in pre-measurement, the criteria you would think of that there is some problem in your preoperative measurements, again, like the axial length is more or less. The average corneal power is coming to be less than 40 diopters or more than 47 diopters. If calculated emmetropic power more than 3 diopters from specific lens styles, and their difference between two eyes in the average corneal power being more than 1 diopter, axial length being more than 0.3 diopters, or the emmetropic implant power being more than 1 diopters. A brief overview, we would be talking about the IOL formulae according to the generations, the shortcoming of some formulae, the new formulae, the refractive and IOL outcome problem situations would be discussed subsequently, and just a brief word on the problems in pediatric eyes. Post-refractive surgery, as said, will be discussed subsequently, is increasing and becomes a very, very important problem because of the high volumes of LASIK surgeries and other refractive surgeries being done at the moment, and probably in another 10 or 20 years, this becomes probably the largest section being operated by many cataract surgeons. The pediatric cataract surgery, predominantly calculations are based on the axial length measurements of the SRK formula. There is the other problem being a large myopic shift which occurs within the first few years. And within the first year, keratometric readings can be ignored. So the decision making can be that you can compromise by undercorrecting, and the problem occurs when you want to decide how much undercorrecting you need to do. A lot of nomograms are there, among the most standard ones being that less than 2 years decrease the IOL power calculation by 20%, between 2 to 8 years decreased by 10%, although there are many others and anything can be followed depending upon the volume and your surgical experience. The first generation formulae that were there were the theoretical formulas of Frodov and Binkhorst. The SRK1 was the first regression formula. The regression formula basically is derived by a large volume surgical practice and estimating the, trying to correlate the IOL being implanted and the outcomes that you have got. So basically using high volumes and large numbers, they're coming to a more accurate and more predictable way of putting in IOLs. It was the most commonly used and had a fairly good accuracy. The second generation formulae came with the regression formulae of SRK2, which significantly improved outcomes as well as gave additional tips on how to manage shorter and longer eyes. The third generation formulae being the Holiday 1, SRKT, which included a factor for the retinal thickness and the Hofer Q. The theoretical formula for the fourth generation was the Holiday 2, which assumed a scaling factor which was calculated using AC depth, lens thickness, refractive error, age of the patient. So which formulae to use? Currently, the third and the fourth generation formulae are the most accurate ones in use and are much better than the earlier regression formulae. The lens thickness of tractive Virgin's formulae in calculating IOL power, and with a lot of variables, like covering a lot of variables that can bring about variations in IOL power calculations. So having 6 variables and 2 constants, although can be a headache, but definitely improves your outcomes. They differ in the way they estimate the effective lens position that you would be placing. So earlier we had more fixed values as to where we would place the effective lens position. It started off with being theoretically 4.5 millimeters. Over time, from 1998-90s onwards, the axial length keratometry, the aim is to decide appropriately and correctly the final effective lens position and thereby getting a more accurate IOL power. The Holiday 2 and Hofer Q use the AC depth constant, that is the distance between the power plane of the cornea and the lens. And the SRKT uses the manufacturer's A constant when you are calculating the IOL power. So just a brief understanding, for short eyes we would prefer the Hofer Q or the Holiday 2. For medium eyes, again Holiday 2 would be overall very appropriate, although SRKT is a very good formula that we can use. For the longer eyes, Holiday 2 again is one of those which we are seeing. So you can see that Holiday 2 is a very popular used formula for shorter and longer eyes, although Hofer Q gives a significant advantage in short eyes. Again, depending upon what your outcomes you are expecting and your experience, you could adjust your formula or these established formulae and incorporate your outcomes into these and get a better outcome for surgery. Thank you.